Hello, everyone. My name is Jake Sewell. This is for COM 381. Today I will be discussing Chapter 1 of the book, forgetting the name of the title. It is Now Discover Your Strengths. And we read Chapter 1, and the title of that chapter was Strong Lives. And that chapter pretty much discussed a lot of things I was surprisingly interested in. And it was kind of put into three different sections. In the first, it talked about the investor, the director, the skin doctor, and the editor, and those are all famous people. And the second part of it talks about Tiger Woods, Bill Gates, and Cole Porter. And at the ending, I thought it was pretty neat. It talks about the three revolutionary tools for stronger lives. So, digging into the first little section, the investor, the director, the skin doctor, and the editor, I thought was neat because it gets right into talking about Warren Buffett. And when you think about Warren Buffett, I always thought that he was sort of a guy who had all the money in the world and didn't really do much with it. But turns out in the chapter, he talks about going up to a room full of students and saying he's just like them. Money's the only difference. And then it goes on to say that Buffett kind of utilized his strengths in ways that people don't normally do, and that is kind of said. For example, he. I thought it was kind of funny. He did not invest in Microsoft or any of the more internet or technologically savvy things because he just didn't see any future in technology. And later on in life, which I thought was funny, the richest man or one of the richest men in the world didn't invest in something like that. He's supposedly so smart, but he wouldn't invest in that. But anyway, so going on, it goes on to talk about him investing in things that he likes, and kind of focusing on what you're good at and digging deep and just attacking that. And that kind of relates to what he invested in. Yeah, he didn't invest in the Microsoft, yada yada, but he did invest in things that he understood and liked, like Dairy Queen, Coca-Cola, and the Washington Post. So again, going on, it talks a lot about Warren Buffett and how that was interesting. How he supposedly his first investment partnership was he did it with $100 in 1956. And then the chapter goes on to talk about Pam D, the director of Health and Human Services for Urban County, and all of her strengths and her strong suits and what she went through and relating it back to Warren Buffett. The chapter goes on to talk about Paula L. And again, kind of relates all back to Buffett and utilizing their strengths and what you like to do and investing that. And so the next part is talking about Tiger Woods, Bill Gates, and Cole Porter. The first two names were very familiar for me. Cole Porter, I wasn't sure of who he was, but after I kind of got a feel of it. So this chapter talks about pretty much digs a little bit deeper into what strength is, how we can utilize that better, and then how we perfect our performance. So talks about an athlete like Tiger Woods and how he's so good, he can putt all this stuff, but his weakness was shooting shots out of the bunker. So kind of to summarize what it talks about, he worked and worked and worked at his weakest part of his game to make it so his game wasn't perceived to be horrible, that he was perceived to be the best in the world, that his weakness was not even, people didn't even recognize it. Going on, talking about Bill Gates, pretty much, I mean, he was a crazy smart person, invested, utilized his strengths just like everyone else, but he had weaknesses just like us. And then finally Cole Porter, and he was kind of pursued a more risky strategy but he managed around his weaknesses. He bet that if he kept polishing his strengths as a songwriter, very soon the audience simply wouldn't care that his plots were a little bit weaker and his characters were stereotypical. Now, the final little segment was the three tools, the three revolutionary tools. The first revolutionary tool is understanding how to distinguish your natural talents from things you can learn. I thought that was pretty cool because backing up what all these little sections talked about, you have to understand who you are inside, what you're naturally talented at, and you have to learn from that, and you have to try different and all sorts of things to find what your strong suit is. The second tool was quote, the second revolutionary tool is a system to identify your dominant talents. So kind of going off of that one. And then the final was the third revolutionary tool is a common language to describe your talents. And that pretty much sums it up.